This Warriors Life 2025, episode 6. It's Will and Fonzie here with a very special guest, Warriors CEO Cameron George. We're brought to you by King's Container Crew. Head to kingskontainercrew.com for all your container packing and unpacking solutions, and hit the Work With Us tab if you want to join their team. Also, with the support of the TAB in 2025. Cameron George, great to have you here, mate, especially on the eve of such an exciting venture for the Warriors, Vegas, and you're heading over there in a couple of days. How's things? How's the excitement levels?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate being here. Look, it's been a very big task by everyone involved to get everything planned and organised, ready to execute our trip to Las Vegas. We leave on Saturday. So, yeah, look, it's it's a big task to undertake. Basically, 36 people flying over on Saturday. You can't leave anything behind. And we just got to prepare well, which we have done. And now it's about going to get the job done. It'll be a great experience for the footy club, but at the end of the day, we're there to win a game of footy.
First time in Vegas for you, mate, or?
Yeah, it is. It is my first time. So yeah, looking forward to that experience. But we've got a fair bit on while we're over there.
What are you guys hoping to sort of get out of Vegas besides, the 2 competition points? Is there anything that you're sort of hoping to leverage out of the opportunity, or, anything that you're trying to activate over there, or is it just that important that you're really focusing on the 80 minutes at Allegiant Stadium?
Yeah, clearly that's the objective, to go there and win. But look, in general, we're just playing our part. Like every team in the NRL will have to do at some stage. We're trying to help the game grow and expand, and we all benefit from that, and we all play a role in that. So the important thing is for us that we get over there, we do our job in terms of promoting the game. We've been doing that a lot over the last few months over in Vegas. So it's nice to think that we could, grow awareness around the Warriors brand. One New Zealand and our partners all get that exposure as well, and we get a pretty cool experience. But at the end of the day, it's about growing our whole club, and the experience will certainly, I'm sure will play a part in the players' future with their maturity and being able to handle big occasions. So hopefully everything goes to plan, and we all get something out of it.
Yeah, awesome. And it's obviously been a massive couple of years for the club. Just so many highlights in the past and during your tenure. The sort of goodwill and positive engagement around the club has been so closely linked to how the first grade teams perform. And we're probably, Brad and I, Fonz is a bit more circumspect in general, but we've been probably as guilty as anyone about how fickle we've been when things have sort of taken a downturn on the field. But you must be, I guess, pretty satisfied with, coming off the season or during a season where the results didn't quite go, the Warriors' way as you would have liked, and as a lot of expectations were, that, you're smashing records, selling out every game. That groundswell didn't subside at all. That tidal wave of support was still just as strong as it was during that incredible 2023 season.
Yeah, you make a lot of valid points. Look, I take a bit of a bigger picture view than just the results on the field. They mean an awful lot to us, and we want to win the competition, no doubt. That's the intent and the purpose of what we all do at the One New Zealand Warriors. But, on the back of 2022, where we reset the club, and, if I was to sit here then and, I'm pretty sure you guys would be saying we're at a pretty low ebb in our club's history. So, our focus was to reset, rebuild, and go after everything we can on and off the field. And if I look at the club from where we were then to where we are now, we are miles ahead, and way above probably a lot of people's expectations. 23, we took off, and we really went to a level that a lot of people were shocked about. Internally, we had belief, but, we got there and we just missed out on, getting into a grand final. And then last year, the expectations were even bigger on the club, and we've got to learn to live with those and deliver in those times as well. However, the reality of the season, if you break it down, it wasn't as bad as what it looks. We only got beaten in a large number of games by 4 points. We had a significant amount of injury, which has now probably benefited us. At the time, it certainly doesn't. But you look at the kids that got game time and where they're at now after another pre-season and the trials, you've seen kids jump up out of the ground, be stronger, be bigger, be faster. And that's because of all the experiences we received last year. So when you start building step by step and putting all that into place, we're heading in a terrific direction. We're not going backwards. We're a much better club than where we were 2 years ago, irrespective of what the ladder showed in 24. We don't accept it. We want it to be much higher as well. But when you weigh up, you need a lot of luck, both, on the field and tactically, and you need a lot of luck with injuries. And we didn't really receive both too often throughout the year. So, notwithstanding that, we wanted to be much higher on the ladder. But I look at it as a collective of where we started when we started the reset to where we are now. And, I feel like we're a much, much better club. Our recruitment is really good. Our pathway system is firing, and Webby is growing as a coach. And you're seeing that in the kids coming through. That's what coaches are about. Giving those opportunities and coaching those kids to be NRL players, and we've got some special talent, and that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah.
Take it away, Fonz.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind sort of exploring that a little bit further with you, Cam, because I often hear leaders of sports clubs, say, look, we've got to win, and winning fix, like if there's an issue with crowds or with media or other things, we've got to win and that'll solve problems. And I listen to that and say, well, yeah, but only one team can win, right? And so in any given year, only half the teams will make the finals or less. Law of averages, all things equal, says you win a comp once every 16 years, right? So winning is important because that's why we're here. We want to win. But on the other hand, you've got to have a club that's resilient enough to be successful off the field, whether or not you are winning. And I suppose I'm interested in knowing, like the Warriors, I think were notoriously through, let's say 2012 through to sort of 2019, were pretty notorious for having a little bit of a bandwagon around them. But what we saw last year was a complete opposite of that. It was the bandwagon now was massive and rusted on. So I'm really interested in your thoughts on how that happened, like, and how sturdy is that? Like, if we tank this year, I hope we won't, but if we did, do you think it's still going to be there in another 2 years?
Yeah, well, that's up to us as a footy club. We've got to innovate. We've got to, evolve year in, year out. We put a lot of time and effort into engaging with our fans. We want to put our club in the hands and the laps of our fans right around this country and globally as well. So our engagement levels through social media, the content, the offering that we provide is simply amazing. Put a lot of time and effort into that. We've got a great team of people overseeing that and delivering that on various platforms. Mm-hmm. The real thing for me was our ambition is in two parts. One is we want to be a premiership winning team and ultimately club. And, that's Webby's focus and that's the recruitment focus. And we've got all those systems in place now. You can't just turn a light on and expect those results to come. In terms of that, when we aren't winning a footy game, we need to make sure we identify why, and we can identify why. And we are doing that. And I touched on those earlier, and we'd be in a lot worse situation if we're losing games and not being able to explain why. But, we can put our finger on them and we can fix them and we can get a bit of luck. We're going to be hard to run down, and our intent is to win. So don't think we're trying to build year in, year out. We're trying to win the competition year in, year out. And then off the field, the whole philosophy around that engagement is both through, platforms, digital wise, and then most importantly, when you come through the gates, we want to provide the best experience you can get in New Zealand. That's our market. We don't try and take on Suncorp Stadium and whoever's playing there. We don't try and take on, the Allianz Stadium in Sydney and what they provide and all that sort of thing. We want to be the best in our market, and that's New Zealand. So to do that, when people walk through the gates, it's got to be priced right to attract them first and foremost. Secondly, when they get in the gates, they're going to have a wow of an experience. And we have an amazing game day team that just innovative and evolving all the time. And when they have that experience, it sort of dilutes the pressure of what the football result is, and, because they're so caught up in the atmosphere, the electricity in the stadium. And then that flows on to nearly everyone walking out of that stadium with an amazing experience, hopefully with a win. And they become your advocates. They become the people that go and sell your sport and sell your game days for you. And that again has been a work on for us over a couple of years. And there's an expectation there now that the experience people receive and the price points that we can put our tickets on the market for are really achievable. So there's a lot of planning and work that goes into that. We can put the price at a level where we get half the amount of crowd, which creates half the amount of atmosphere, which creates half the amount of interest and fans, where I'd rather get them in the gate, have a great time, get all the PR from it. It all flows onto other benefits through merchandise, memberships, corporate sales. Your sponsors are happy because they're engaging with large numbers of fans, and it works. And that's our approach: is price it right, get them in, have the best time, and they become your fans to go away and sell the game days.
Yeah, it's indulge me with a bit of an analogy here. I've got two young kids, two boys. I like fishing. I'm a keen fisherman. And I worked out pretty quick, if I'm relying on catching fish to keep them engaged with fishing, I'm going to struggle, right? What I need them to like fishing, not like catching fish. So that means we go to the tackle store, we look at the different gear, we learn about that, we get interested in that, we go and fish, and the process of fishing's fun. And it's not just about how many fish did we catch. And it's a bit like that, isn't it? Like, as in, being a supporter of a club, a member of a club, it's about the entire process. It's about the entire journey, being on the journey with the club. And the results are good, but it's at the end of the day, they're kind of the outcome of the process. What you want is people invested with you in the process. Is that a good way to think about it?
Yeah, really good comparison. It is. We want people to, buy the tickets because they know the experience at Go Media Stadium is going to be, outstanding, and the football's going to be the cream on top, particularly when we're winning. And but it's, those kids want to come and see their heroes. It's amazing how many, because of our price points and our philosophy of the game day experience being so broad, the amount of kids and families that we're getting coming to the game is the most pleasing thing. So we're building a generational fan base as well. But it is a good comparison. Football's a part of the event, not the actual event. And you talk about, going back to 2012 to 2019, you'd have your bandwagon and your fans that come when you're winning and leave when you're losing. But right now it's about a holistic approach to the game day experience. And that's been a real strategic approach from us. And I feel like we're the best in the market in New Zealand. And that's really important to us. That's where we want to be number one.
Yeah, awesome. And if I could ask, you mentioned ticket prices and so on. Just a couple of questions about the economics of a footy club. So the NRL grant covers your player salaries and a lot of your staff salaries as well, is my understanding. Is that basically right, or not quite?
No, so the salary cap for a top 30 plus 6, development spots is covered by the NRL funding. The club does receive a further grant, but it's definitely not going to cover your salaries of your staff. We don't get funding to cover that per se, but it does contribute to your operations and particularly what we're talking about, game days and things we can do and so on. So we have a tremendous deal with the NRL. Every club, we're so blessed now the way the game is and the way it's positioned financially, and we benefit from that. But yeah, the salary cap is funded, through your broadcasting rights and all those sort of things. Yep. So each club receives about a grant of about, I'm just talking rough numbers here of 14, 15 million, but per annum, but that includes, your top 36 salary cap players, which you spend a minimum of 95% of that each year. And I think this year it's 10.6 million Australian. So, it's, so it gets funded, but certainly the money gets spread far and wide to try and cover your game days throughout the year, because there's a lot of cost in that.
Understood. And we don't get any grant for the teams we put into the New South Wales Cup competitions. Is that funded through the club itself?
Yeah, predominantly it is. We do get some assistance from the NRL with our travel in particular. We're responsible because New South Wales Rugby League have been outstanding, people to work with in this regard, and we've got to be in those competitions because we need that elite, those elite competitions for our players to develop in. And but part of the condition is us competing in those or playing in those competitions, that we have to cover our own cost for travel, for us to get to Australia, and for the opposing team to come here, and the referees and any other official that's required. So effectively, we've got to fund pretty well everything around that. But to the credit of the NRL, they do see that as a really important part for our operations, and they do certainly assist us, with the travel, because it is a lot of travel when you've got 5 teams going over each week, and effectively we've got to pay for 4 teams to come over and play us throughout under 17s through to reserve grade.
I had no idea we had to pay for them to come here. Yeah, I hadn't thought that through. That is a lot, right? Well, I mean, given that, then it's obviously, we've been banging on this podcast for years about how important it is to have that pathway program in place. And the best thing that, 2023's on-field NRL results were fantastic. But for me, the better thing that's happened in the last 2 years is seeing that finally we've got that full pathways program in place, because you can build off that, and that can set you up well into the future. So, I mean, you've talked about this before, but given that level of investment, can you talk just to how important that pathway program really is if we're going to be a successful club?
Well, I think evidence will show you historically nearly every club that has a strong pathways and development program from a very young age are successful at various times. And the salary cap is designed to level out the competition. And the best thing that you can do is, of course, you're always going to recruit players, because from time to time you're just going to be light on in certain positions, and it's just, regardless of, Penrith still buy players, and everyone says they have the best system. So, from time to time you're always going to recruit. That's never going to stop. However, the more internal talent you have coming up through your system, it actually works better in your salary cap, because you have longer term deals from younger ages, and you can upgrade them and so on. But when you're buying players from the outside in all the time, it chews up your cap very, very quickly. And historically, it's very evident that, for us, a lot of times we have to pay overs for a player to come to New Zealand and their family to relocate. They can play for 8 different clubs in Sydney, apart from if someone's playing for Parramatta, they've got 8 other options in Sydney, and don't have to relocate their family from their own family home. They can still drive there, but to come to us, there's got to be more of an incentive. So with that in mind, these pathway systems that we have now will allow us to develop and create opportunities for our own kids, and and they'll get fair market value, but we're not paying well overs to try and get people to relocate countries and stuff. And we have a wonderful system in place, aided by very good people. Cappy McFadden's overseeing that. We've had success already with the Harold Matts last year. We've got good kids all the way through, being coached properly, being developed. We're being patient, and ultimately that'll benefit us big time. So really happy with where we're at and why, and it's very, very important to our future.
And when we had Cappy on here a bit earlier this year, we sort of talked about the fact that the club was doing better on field and how that sort of helps with on-field recruitment. In terms of staff that are not football related. So in your team, your commercial team, your game day team, your other staffing. Has the fact that the Warriors have become a juggernaut helped in terms of the people you can attract and retain into the organisation as well?
Very much so. Like, on-field success just creates such a completely different footy club. We've got a terrific bunch of staff that are so capable, and they're empowered to be bold and brave, in whatever role they play at the club. And we've got staff there that have been there 15 plus, 20 plus years, and we've got staff that have been there one season. So they've all had various backgrounds and experiences at the footy club. And I think for the first time in a long time, respectfully, I genuinely believe we have the best group of staff and skills that we've ever had. I just love the way they bounce into work. They're creative. They're really enthusiastic about being the number one entertainment and sporting option in New Zealand. And with the results we've had, when we're talking about commercially, it's great that they're seeing rewards for their work. My job is to let them go after and be brave with what they want to do. And, when times are tough, my job is to protect them. So when the times are good, let them enjoy it, pat them on the back, let them see that that's the fruits of their work. And when times are tough, and, that happens in sport, you can go through a losing streak and, the phone calls, the emails, and, they're not the most friendly things. They see headlines, their mates are having a crack at them and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
That's when, as a leader, my job is to get in and protect them as best I can from that, and just reinforce the confidence we have in them to get the job done regardless of what's going on the field. And our footy players are really respectful of them. Webby's done an amazing job there, making sure, that they're aware of the work that goes on, and they wear the bruises a lot as well. And, not in a physical sense, but certainly mentally. And, my job is to make sure that connection piece is always in play, that players appreciate and staff appreciate the players as well.
Can I ask what it's like in the front office there when after a particularly bad loss, or if you're on a bit of a streak, like how do you find the balance of not getting too emotionally tied up in the results from a working environment point of view for those staff who can't necessarily make changes to the way things are happening on the field?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and sometimes it's really difficult because they do wear it publicly. As I said, the social media and the commentary around the club and its performances and all that they all take it to heart because they're so passionate about what we stand for and who we are, but we've got a really good system whereby we bunker down, we understand what we're doing, we try and keep them on track of the whole plan of the year, and at the end of the day, I can remember having many of chats when we're going through a really tough time, and you can see it wearing thin on particularly the younger staff. So just reinforcing to them that it will turn. Webby and the boys do their thing. It'll turn, and we just keep focusing on doing what we're great at, and that just to give them that confidence and for them to know that we've got their back, and particularly, quite often at that sort of point, I'll make sure that we try and deflect as much as we can away from the club, and just let the guys get on with it. I take that really seriously when we're going through those tough times because I want to make sure our staff are okay. That's the most important thing.
Can you just, while we're hovering around that topic, can you paint us a picture of Cam, the Warriors fan, and perhaps compare it now to 2017 when you first took on the role? How you must just be very emotionally invested on that 80 minutes each week, but you've still got to find that yourself, have to find that sort of that barrier between being able to do your job to the best of your ability and also just loving the team and wanting them to do well.
Yeah, look, my whole mindset when I started in 17, I had no idea what the hell was going on, to be honest. When I look back on it to where I'm at now, and then obviously we experienced a number of years where we had a pretty unique period. So parking that, I can't lose sight of the future. We've got to win every moment we can, every day, whatever that is, whether that's training or whether that's selling memberships or whether that's trying to get new partners on board or making sure we're executing our current partnerships right across the board. I really focus on making sure we're winning and constantly, being on top of what we're great at. And then in addition to that is working with the likes of Cappy and Webby about the future and what it looks like. Like, you could be selfish and just worry about the now, but our shared view and vision of our footy club, because we are so passionate and we are so committed to it, that, we're making decisions 4 or 5 years down the track that's going to benefit the club and the fans and the sponsors and the staff and everyone. And a lot of people don't see that now, but, we want to leave something in the jumper for the next people as well. So, where I was in 17, I was, a fairly big fan. And where I am now, I'm really business minded about it. I do want to win every time we play. And, I sit pretty well nearly every game with Andrew McFadden, and admittedly he hates it because, I get the shits when things go wrong, and, we celebrate the good times, but he's a really good person for me to watch footy with, because he can see things that we can't. Given his experience, and he explains it to me in layman terms, and we both want to win, but he can see it through the eyes of that actually wasn't as bad as what the scoreboard had shown, and he explains that to me at times. So I'm trying to get better at that, but that's just the competitiveness in all of us. We just never want to get beat. It's more of a very much a future business approach for me, building the club up, making sure they're protected in the future. And what we do now is going to create success in 5, 10, 15 years' time.
And Cam, you touched on there that, if you've come potentially a long way in your mindset since 2017 with the club and how you watch footy. And I'm going to shy away from it. In 2018-19, there were decisions the club made that, on this podcast, we were very critical of, and in 23, 24, it's been decisions the club made that can't stop talking about, how good those decisions are. And so, and there's a common theme through all of that. You were there. There was different owners and different, situations, circumstances, COVID, but from 2018, you were there. I suppose a question for you, like reflecting on your own journey, are you a different CEO to what you were in 2018, 2019, say?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Honestly, this game moves really quickly. And we had a lot happen. We had change of ownerships and we had change of management structures. We had the COVID slammers, all that sort of thing. So in a lot of ways, we're just trying to survive and trying to keep everyone together and so on. So all of those experiences help you become a different leader. But, you talk about just parking all those challenges. You talk about me and the decisions being made that you touched on and all that. I didn't get all them right. Absolutely not. 100%. I've got to take ownership for, some of them and all of them. Whether they're right or wrong, I'm not sure. You decide that, but I've got to own that. That's my job, to own that. I don't put that on any staff member. But I feel like when awards need to be won for the Warriors, I feel like I've led us to win those wars. When we've needed additional funding, when we've needed to take on the NRL over different things, when we've needed to win different aspects of the COVID era, there's many of things when we've needed to make big calls to change things to make the club better. I'm happy to, wear the bruises for that, because it's always been a club first approach. But certainly, I feel like I haven't got all the calls right, and a lot of the times I was probably on my own. But now I've got such a great team around me. I've got a stable owner in Robbo, and that creates a really good understanding on how what we think and how we think and when we think it. But one greater support base in my everyday working life is, Webby and Cappy. We're talking all the time. We're so connected. We're in the now, but also planning for the future, and just have beautiful staff around us. And that creates better leaders alone when you can engage and talk and trust and have each other's back. There's a lot of times there I was making decisions, and honestly, I was making them on my own, through no fault of anyone's, but it's just the way the system was at the time. But much better environment now to make really good measured decisions with great support, with great thought processes, and a real good understanding of how the owner wants the club and to look and feel.
Is that a bit different to some of the other, setups you've had? Obviously Brian Smith was there for a few years, and you've been through a few coaches during your time. Is it, a conscious change, or is it just the chemistry between yourself and Cappy and Webby, or is it, you've just been feeling your way to what is the best, the best way to work together? And
like I've known Webby and Cappy a lot longer than I've been at the Warriors. So when I was on the board at the Warriors, though Cappy he took over coaching, and Webby was his assistant. So we were very close away from that because I wasn't really involved. So I spent a lot of time with them then. So when they all went off and did their own journey and did their own thing through Canberra and Penrith and West Tigers and the likes, I had the chance to start with a clean slate after COVID. And when Brownie had advised that he wasn't going to move back, it gave me a chance then to say, right, and because of all those learnings we touched on, I really knew what I wanted in people around me and why. And with Webby, he's such a I know with Webby, when I went down the path of recommending him to Robbo and signing him up, there was a risk because he was first cab off the rank coaching job on a permanent level. Everyone was saying the club needed a hard edge and all this sort of stuff. But I just truly believed in what his attributes were and how much I felt that I could connect with those. And likewise for Cappy, when he was coaching at Canberra at the time, and when the opportunity came up to sort of more or less run the footy department through recruitment and development and the like, I've always admired him for his deep thinking. And if you go back to his coaching days, I don't know how many kids he debuted at this footy club, but there was an awful lot when you look back through his period here. And, they all went on to play first grade for a long time. And I'll never forget, he just always had that knack to find a young kid and give him that chance and give him the confidence that they were ready. And if he could translate that into the role he's in now, I knew that the three of us could be so dynamic and really build something for this footy club's future. And over and beyond of all of their own personal attributes, the one thing that stands out the most is how invested they are in the Warriors Footy Club. We're all Aussies, but that doesn't matter, mate. We are so invested in rugby league in this country. We are so invested in the Warriors winning their premiership, not just once, but for future years to come with more premierships right through our system. And I know if I'm not there, they've got the club's best interests at heart. I know if Cappy's not there one day, he knows he can trust me to do any of his oversight of any of his work, and Webby's the same. We talk 10 times a day without doubt, whether in the office or not.
Nothing too wrong with Aussies, Cam. One question, change the tack slightly, but I really love that answer. In terms of travel, we get a lot of questions into our socials and stuff saying, so Vegas is awesome. I'm so happy we're doing Vegas for a whole range of reasons, but put that to one side. We get a lot of questions about Magic Rounds, which is why, given we have the biggest travel burden in the game, why do we take a home game to Magic Round? Is that just a economics thing or a deal we've done there, or is that something you might look at? What's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, look, it has been an economics thing, to be honest, and we needed it. And the other theory is we're going to have to travel there anyway. And look, I'm sure moving forward we'll certainly revisit the whole concept, but particularly now with the new stadium in Christchurch coming online and so on. And we want to grow the game more and more and more in New Zealand. So the more content we can get here, absolutely. But at the time, the deal I signed was, I think, back in 2020 was the first one, or 2019 was the first one. And then re-signed in 22 for another 3 years. So we're not far away from concluding, probably another year or so. But we'll revisit it then. I think we've done our part. In that, but look, economics played a huge role in that, and we needed the funding, to be honest. But now we've got a bit of momentum in New Zealand. We've got to make sure that we're putting as much content into this country as we possibly can to grow the game and grow our fan base.
Yeah, that makes sense. And another question we get a lot is just a really basic one: do we pay our players in Australian dollars? Like, because the NRL salary cap's in Aussie.
It's all New Zealand. So
is our cap New Zealand or is our cap Aussie? And how does that work?
It's New Zealand, but it's all done on a set rate, if you like, that is taken on an average over a period of time and so on.
Okay.
I won't bore you with all the detail, but look, there's a lot of pros about playing in New Zealand. Like the tax bracket's different. It's not free like Papua New Guinea, I might add, but it's certainly, it's better than the Aussie one. You don't pay stamp duty here for houses, unlike Australia, and so on. So, look, it's not identical in any way, shape, or form, but it's been in place for a long time in that way, and we're comfortable with it. And players, look, if they went back to Aussie, it on the same dollars, it'd be a big difference as well. So it's all done in New Zealand.
Matter. So we have a New Zealand cap, but that's converted to Aussie sort of over a period of time, so it smooths out basically is a model.
Yeah, look, we're
put
it this, we're no worse off on the number due to the cap
exchange
rate that we settle on.
So we're not asking Aussie players to take risk on an exchange rate to come over here. For example, that's really the question we get. Got it.
Put it this way, we're spending the same amount of New Zealand dollars as what they're spending in Australian dollars.
Yeah, got it. Okay. In terms of one sort of theme I've had on this pod for a few years is that in sport and rugby league especially, there's something in management of those clubs where, whether it's be sacking a coach or some other decision, where there's a bit of an action bias, which is, there's a sense from management that, results aren't where they want to be. We have to do something. Whereas sometimes you've just got to write it out because doing something is not the right solution. And, because there's this desire to win and this desire to be seen to pulling out all the stops to win, I feel like that's part of the culture of sport and the culture of rugby league. Do you feel that as a leader of a rugby league club, that you talk about that external pressure and stuff? Do you feel like sometimes there's pressure to do something when maybe it's the right thing to do would be to do nothing and just write it out? Yes,
in short. But I go back to your question when you said what's changed in sort of my leadership between 2017 to now, 18, I should say, to now. This is probably a really good point that I can now be more resilient. My block out of criticism around those aspects of our business. Look, if it's warranted, understand it. But as a employer of people, you got to be very aware of the whole picture of what that person brings to the organisation. Winning is absolutely a critical element to the role and responsibilities of the head coach. However, there's a huge amount of other tasks and responsibilities and influence that they can have over your organisation. And whilst they might be not enjoying the success on the field at the NRL level for a set period of time, they are building successful measures everywhere else in your organisation. And then the flip side is just because they're they're winning more often than they're not, they might be not having the best influence over all your other parts of your organisation, i.e. development pathways. You're losing a lot of staff and all that sort of thing. So it's hard, but it's a constant measure rather than just walking in after 5 games and going, you are no good, you're gone. And that's, it's a difficult process to undertake whichever way you look at it. I've been through it a few times, and it's never easy because you never employ a bad person. They're always, good people with the best intentions, but the reality is it just doesn't gel or doesn't work for whatever reason, and you identify those, and if they don't fix it and get better, well, the best thing you can do is just, move on because of that environment we work in.
Yeah, understood. I'm conscious of time, Will, so that'll do me. We had a couple of questions from Brad phoned in. Is that right? Our co-host is not here.
You're right, mate. Yes.
Well, so Brad had Webby and Stitches when we had him on the pod. He'll ask a bit of a left field one here and there, but the one that he did send through to me was I actually had to ring. Brad's a builder in Dunedin. I had to ring him. I got trapped in my bathroom, door handle fell off, and I rang him. And it's the second time it happened in a short space of time that someone rang him. Nathan McCullum, the former Black Cap, was the other. He's asked, if you were stuck in the bathroom, Cam, who at the Warriors would you ring to get you out of there?
Well, it wouldn't be Webby because he never answers his phone. He always, yeah. If you're ever looking for Webby, you ring him and he'll ring you back. Cappy thinks he's a bit of a builder, architect, engineer, and everything, but he'd be asleep. I reckon I'd probably go and get someone like, I'm going to say, like a Mitch Barnett, because I think he just ripped the door off.
Sounds about right.
It'd take about 30 seconds. He'd walk in, just rip the door off and say, "You're right, yeah, you're right," and he'd just go home.
Perfect.
Yep. One more from Brad that he texted me in. Jet Cleary's obviously come across, which is probably a sign that he sees Penrith as a sinking ship over the coming years. Can we expect Nathan and Ivan to follow him across as, to jump off the sinking ship there, Cam? What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I remember when we were sitting in Ivan's lounge room talking one day, and it's been a pretty cool journey to work with that family, and given their circumstances, plus the connection to the club, how proud they are that Jet's sort of stepped out on his own, and they, as hard as what it is for mum and dad, they understand it's the best thing for him. They couldn't wish for him to go to a better club because Ivan and Webby are really close, and so on. And it was funny because we were sitting there and we said, well, he can come over and we'll start winning premierships. And then I said, Ivan can come over and coach New South Wales Cup, and Nathan can play, New South Wales Cup with Ivan, and Jet can be our first grade halfback. And, I know we all laughed and stuff about things like that, but they've got a really soft spot for the footy club, and particularly New Zealand. I saw them the other day in Cronulla, and it was so nice to see, one of your most successful coaches in modern era rugby league, if not the most successful, just being a dad. He turned up at Cronulla to watch his son play, and he was dead set just being a father. And when you see that, I think it's really special, and that's what the club means to Ivan. He's just so happy and comfortable that his son's wearing the jumper and getting his opportunities, and and because he's a dad with that experience, he knows what not to do, and that's to put pressure on his kids or Jet in particular, or ask questions or anything. He just trusts Webby the whole process.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Oh, it's probably a good place to leave it, mate. You got to go and pack up your toilet bag, make sure you've got everything sorted for Vegas. So we really appreciate you coming on so close to such a big trip, and super excited for that and the season ahead. Thanks again just for your access and your time, and we'll be riding the wave with you again in 2025.
buckle up, boys. It's about to start. So get on the roller coaster, and it'll be fun. And looking forward to the trip, but just looking forward to the year ahead. I think we're going to see a really exciting young footy team take the park a lot of the times throughout the year.
Yeah, awesome, Cam.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, mate.
Sweet, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Fonz, Kings Container Crew, TAB, all our listeners, and particularly our Patreon supporters. We'll catch you next week and lead up to round 1.